Alright, hey guys, how you doing? You're watching T-Core Tone here, and today we're going to look at the Frank's Patriots, made in the USA, Frank's Boots, in Spokane, Washington. It's run by Frank Petrelli, and his wife Michelle. They, have the long lineage of Pacific Northwest Logger Boots, stemming from whites to Nicks, and then, Frank's. So Frank actually worked at Nicks and then was a part owner of Nicks, and the building that they actually operate out of, Frank's Boots, is the original Nicks Boots building, interesting enough. If you want to buy like the best quality for the money kind of boot that's in America in particular, I would say this is your best bet. I have Thorogoods, is a common work boot for people that are not trying to, spend too much money. But once you get to these Pacific Northwest type boots, you're entering another bracket. A Thorogood, what do they cost? Like $250? No, it's like, it might be like $300. I did buy a pair of brand new Thorogoods the other year, but I had like a gift card too, so it's throwing me off. Anyhow, so these were listed for the longest time at $350. Okay, now I believe they're $380 is what I paid, plus the shipping is like $35 through UPS. So it ends up being like, I believe I spent like $415. Now I live in Delaware, I don't have any sales tax. Let's just talk about the boot itself, I suppose. Well, I'll talk about the packaging too. So it came in this box. Some brands like White's ship all their stuff, and Drew's, they ship their products a box within a box. I can't remember if my JKs had a box in a box. Don't think they did, but I'm not positive. I know Nicks comes like this, Wesco comes like this. So there's no other box. It just came like this. Which I actually had a conversation with people about the other day in a group, whether that's ethical or not. I could see their point. Like, you don't want to overly advertise that it's an expensive package, but they do a signature release. It's part of the price. They want someone to sign for them at the door. You can, if UPS's website is working properly, you can fill out to do to waiver the signature release. I think I did. I'm not positive. It's kind of a long story, but good luck trying to get them on the phone or doing that over the phone, because they won't accommodate from my experience. So on the box, it actually tells you what you're getting. So so these are Patriots, 10 height, 10-inch boots. That's how tall they are. Color, WAL, stands for walnut. And then D8D is the size. I'm a 9D Brannock. On the actual Brannock, get yourself a Brannock device. You could probably get one super cheap used on eBay for $40 or something. I think that's what I paid for this. Family members can use it. They'll always have one. Less and less shoe stores these days. If you so choose to buy a pair anytime soon, to go on their website. They're mostly a call type company. Whatever you're ordering, and you don't live anywhere near there, you can't just go to the store, call them, preferably. You can do stuff online, but if you want to customize things in any way, you're going to have very limited options if you do it online. So you want to call them in most cases, particularly if you want to get MTOs, right? Now, I will be comparing these to a number of other logger boots that I have, like the whites and the Drews and JKs. So I love their branding. You got the nice Frank's D-Boss, M-Boss, whatever type branding. All brass hardware. This is hooks and eyelets. Like I said, 10-inch boot. So unlike whites, most of whites, this is called a Vibram v100 lug sole, commando lug sole, full commando lug sole. Yeah, most of whites, when you get their commando soles, V100s, you'll get the white X one. So right here, it'll have a white X, so it's rated for fire and snow, and it's a slightly more soft. And then they have the red X ones for fire. These plain ones, they're a little harder, the lugs, and they'll wear slower. So they'll actually last slightly longer. You can usually kind of tell in here. They're a little more like jagged in the lug department, interestingly enough. So the Patriots, why are they cheaper if they're still made in America compared to like a Type 1 or Type 2? Well, they use like slightly less desirable hide quality. So, you know, the more hides with defects in them, or a lot of character like scarring and scratches and manure burns and who knows what from the hides themselves. But this is a 55 last, the same last that Whites uses and Nicks. It has a moderately high arch in it, built in, all leather construction. There's no fiberboard or leatherboard or whatever. So you're getting an all leather boot. This one has, I noticed the sock liner, you guys may not see, is way down in there is a half sock liner. We're not focusing on it whatsoever, but it's down there. Sometimes you get full sock liners, like my Drews are a full, and so are my Whites Ranchers, the 4811 last. Now, interesting enough, and I'm just noticing this now myself. So, both 10-inch boots, right? And this being a Packer, which is usually a taller heel. But you'll see that the heel of this boot and the whole boot itself ends up looking a bit taller. And that's a result of the lug sole, the commando sole. Whereas this has your mini lug Vibram 430 sole. So those lugs will give you some extra height. Just to throw that out there if you're considering a 10-inch boot. I mean, I like 10-inch boots. First thing I noticed off this boot is the support. It's way more supportive, than taller, with a taller shaft boot, taller upper. I'm used to 8 and 6-inch boots. That's what most of my boots are. That's kind of the sweet spot for me. I'm shorter. I have shorter legs, 5'6", so I don't really need super tall boots, because 10-inch boots, taller for me than it is for other people. So, yeah, 55 last, right? So this last is different altogether. It's a 5332. It's a Packer last, right? So this is the old Nicks Contender, right? Made in 2008. This boot, when I looked into it, so here we have 8Ds up here, and then if I grab the other one, because of course it couldn't be that one, on here, now it should focus. I think you'll see it. If you look hard enough, it says 6/24. So this boot, production date on it is June of 2024. Or what this probably means is what this usually means for most brands is the first number is actually what week of the year. So maybe this was actually made on the 6, or is that 8? Boy, it's hard to tell. Actually, it might be an 8, but I think it's a 6. 6th week of 2024. So that's usually how it works when you look at a boot. If you're buying a used boot on eBay or something, here's the kilty false tongue toothed one. Looks similar to White's, I would say, more than anything. Just to compare a different kilty real quick. So here's my JKs. Actually, this tooth is hanging out for some reason. Here's my JKs. These are at 8 inch. Well, these were well made for me. JK's also known for like sizing dilemmas. So, but I have an easy size, so they worked out. But this doesn't have a midsole. It has a lineman shank only. So this is a little bit more of a traditional boot in that regard. It came like really well. I gotta say, this is my first pair of Franks, so I was very impressed with the edging. Super shiny. You can see it on camera. I mean, now I have things like Tokenol and Saphir Mirror Gloss and stuff, but look at that shine. And just the tapering of it. Whoever is on this sander to make this heel, it's a great logger heel, great woodsman heel. I love the shelf of it right here. And then, I mean, it's a good shape. Really like the quality sanding on these heels. And it shines all the way through this midsole. Really nice. Stitch down. Double row stitch down. So it's not... usually the more high quality ones of Franks, the more full priced ones, which are more like the $550 to $650 price range, they usually standard come with like a bright white welt stitching or stitch down stitching here. These are kind of darker. They look a little brighter on camera, but I don't know if that's coming up for you guys, but yeah, so this color, right? I'm not particularly fond of brown boots, or I mean of black boots, because I have too many of them, right? I don't want any more black boots, so I got the Walnut. They had both in stock at the time. When I looked back to see if these shipped, they still didn't. They still had these, but they sold out of the black. I guess black is popular, and I guess maybe they made a lot of these in this size, or it's just luck of the draw. I've heard things like if there's going to be a screwed up hide, they're more likely to throw it in with a high, like they're going to make that a black boot more often than not, especially like a struck through black boot, because it hides imperfections better than lighter pigment boots. Now this is still a pretty dark boot. A smoke jumper is traditionally black all the way through, but why not get the brown? They call this Walnut. It's made by Seidel. Seidel Tannery is located in the United States. I believe they're in Wisconsin. They make the work leathers for most Pacific Northwest brands, 7 to 8 ounce or 8 to 9 ounce thickness. So, what are the other cheaper or cost effective cost savings for these particular Patriot boots is that there's no pull tabs on them. A lot of people say they prefer a pull tab with a taller boot, but I really don't think it matters. I actually think it's easier to not have a pull tab on a taller boot than a shorter boot, because you have all this upper you could still pull up if you needed to, and because it's hooks, I mean, and such a wide gusset, fully gusseted, meaning like the tongue goes all the way up, all the way across. It's easy to pull this on without pull loops, and I'm particular about pull loops. I've learned the hard way by buying various boots that actually really like pull loops. So for me to say that it's no big deal that it doesn't have them, it's no big deal that it doesn't have them. For real. So brown stained, edge dressing. You know, I pretty much hit on everything. I mean, there's not much more to tell. I know there's a bunch of videos on this already. Here's a little, like, I don't know, a little detail I thought was neat. So let's look here at the actual, geez, where's the focus? Yeah, so when you're looking here, a lot of boots, right, when it comes to the edge of the heel stack, the leather, and then down to the sole, the outsole, the rubber, it's usually flush. They're usually flat, like lining up perfectly. On this, they allowed for the rubber to go out further. It extends out further. So there's like a little ledge here, a little cliff of rubber. And I don't know, I actually like that aspect of it. I think that's pretty cool. It's actually protecting the heel stack a little better, really. I don't know if that's just the way they happen to sand it. You know, that this block was shorter. I mean, because this counter also looks shorter too. This counter looks smaller. It's beefy and everything. It's very firm leather counter, but it's not that big. It's not as elongated. Some counters go a lot further down. If you look at my these, for example, my White's Ranchers 4811 last, you can see how much further this counter extends down than on here. So the pattern's very different. Which one cups my heel better? It may be too soon to tell. I've only wore these out a couple times, literally a little bit last night, like around the block, and I went out for like an hour earlier today, you know, on the bike. So yeah, soft toe, completely soft, no composite, no nothing. I like that. It's probably helped my foot to fit in it better. Like I said, I sized the whole size down. 9D Brownick, 8D in these boots. And it's a snug 8D. A little more snug than I expected, but it still fits good. I have one other 55 last that's 8D. But it's a lace-to-toe and it's whites, so it's a little bigger actually in certain ways. It's hard to explain. So because this is actually an 8.5, this whites. So one other boot I should compare it to is the one that's my actual work boot from day to day, the PNW Logger Boot. But this is an 8-inch. See the difference. And that's this height. The 8-inch is the reason I bought this first, actually, because it was summertime. I wanted just less leather, and I thought rough out would be good for work, you know, scuffing your boots up and stuff. So, but this is a 55-1 last. This is an 8D as well, but it's actually a lot smaller. I mean, a lot bigger in the toe, in the width, like the side to side, like one of the ball of the foot area. I could tell that the 55-1 is just a much roomier toe box. Yeah, so if you got wide feet, I would probably go with the Drews. I mean, the Drews, and this I paid $350 for. Now they're both priced the same. They're both priced at $380, but this is made in Mexico, even though it's owned by Drews Bakers, American company. But yeah, and the leather is also Seidel, I believe. So I love this boot, this Drews boot, but I wanted a second work boot to rotate, and 10-inch could be more like a winter boot for me. I'm recording this early November 2024, so yeah, both lug sole. Now this was a white X sole, but the white X wore off. And you'll see there's only one stitch that goes through this whole boot to the outsole, whereas this is stitched all the way through on both. I don't know if they have the same number of screws. I'll have to look at that later. I can't really even tell through this. looks like I have more of a heel on the, yeah, it looks like there's just more heel in general on the Franks, right? Now that may have something to do with the way they left the shelf on a little bit. They didn't cut it back. They sanded this one back further, it seems. Actually, they're a whole different kind of... Is this that worn? It could just be that worn. It might actually be the same exact heel now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, so that's the heel blocks of the outsole. Counters, yeah, this one has a longer counter too. But it seems like my foot is gonna fit in there just nice, or just nicely enough. I mean, I don't know which one's gonna lock my heel in more. Well, at the same time, like I said, this is thinner because it's not the 55-1. It's the straight up. Width-wise, it's definitely a lot more snug. This is my first 8D non-lace to toe, plain toe 55 last. So it's different, and it's Frank. So they're all going to be like a slightly different, like a hair different, brand to brand. Because this JK's, this isn't even a 55 last. This is more like an H&W style type last. It has arch, but it's very mild compared to, look, it's almost flat in here compared to these guys. So yeah, pretty comfortable. I don't want to keep going on too much longer. The material they used here seemingly is the same, but I don't think it is. It might be. But generally, Franks, for the gusset, you can only do brown or black for the actual tongue material. Where whites, I do find it very interesting that whites, no matter what your boot is, the tongue material will be the same as the upper material in most cases. Or you could specify it. You could possibly have it switched out to something different altogether, which is cool. Pay no attention to this rounded kiltie. I cut that. I did that. Now this is totally stock boot. Just to reiterate, I didn't customize anything about either one of these actually. These are both soft toe. This is, you can see a little bit of wrinkling in here. And I guess that is, gonna be, that's a loose grain spot. It's in the vamp up in here. You can see it's already a little wrinkled, and I really haven't even worn this yet, so it's the only real loose grain spot I even found, though, to be honest with you. So one of the main differences, 55 and 4811 last, you'll see, is the toe area. So you're getting more of a taller toe with the 4811, even though mine is kind of collapsed because it's a soft toe. But this would be a much taller toe, this red dog boot here. But so, and yeah, it's got that great Seidel new leather smell that I've grown to love. New Seidel boots smell great, and so does Warwayne Chrome Excel. I have 2 more boots coming from Franks that are actually MTOs, that are dress leathers and more interesting, a little more creative, a little more stylish, whereas this is just pretty straightforward. And, they made this boot as a gesture to people that can't afford nicer boots, but are hardworking people that need good, strong boots for their jobs, well-constructed boots, and that was what this is all about, The leather laces on these are nice. They feel a little different, actually, than the, I had just said how all leather laces pretty much feel the same recently in a comment, but these actually feel just a little different. But yeah, that should be everything. Gusset's wide on this. Unlike White's keeps theirs just a little more narrow. It's still pretty wide on this, I'd say, but JK, I've noticed also has a pretty wide gusset on their boots. This is also a soft toe, so 3 logger boots here with soft toes, whereas this one, I could definitely feel some Celastic in here. So they're also trimmed very neatly. They were trimmed rather close together, close to the, they kept it pretty tight in here, especially on this side here. Whereas like the complete opposite would be like a JK. Like they trim these very wide. They leave a lot of room around the well area, around the stitch down area. Whereas these, they kept a little more trim. So they're a little more sleek in that regard. Yeah. What I'm seeing is that the Drew's Logger Boot midsole right here is thicker than the Frank's Patriots midsole. Just by a little bit. Just by a little bit. So that versus that. So it's definitely beefier. So the Patriots are taller. Now, of course, this has heel wear. So that's going to be a little misleading, but if you try to line everything up, you could still see the Patriots are taller. It's not by much, so we'll just try to pretend the rubber's not there. So this more like Woods Mini type heel is shorter than the Patriot boot. I like the extra heel height myself, so I don't mind, but just keep that in mind when you're shopping for boots. Maybe the Drew's is a little taller than the Rancher, but midsole wise, we are still looking at a much bigger midsole on the Drews than we are even on the Ranchers. There's no slip sole on here. I don't see it. I don't get. Maybe someone can answer me what's going on there. Maybe that's why this fucking thing squeaks. I have a Rainier coming and a Frank's monkey boot. So stay tuned for those, and I'll likely do an update video on this once they're pretty broken in. So.